What's the most important difference between a whale and a man? I mean, besides the tail and the flippers and the nose on top of their heads. Well, I'll tell you. Whales never get lost. They sing and whistle their hearty whale shanties, then listen to the echoes to find their way in the deep. And we humans, how do we know where we're going? Well, we don't. We're lost and don't even know it. We don't know our bow from our poop deck, our aft from a hole in the ground. Even when there's a pilot on board singing out our course, we ignore him all the same. Take that man there. That's Herman Melville. Me and Herman, we were shipmates long ago. We shared watch, reefed sails, and tossed iron at mighty fish, side by side. Herman was an odd one. He was a dreamer and a scribbler. His pen was as sharp as his harpoon, a weapon of wisdom so keen it could flinch the skin off our very souls. Herman knew as much about where the human race was bound as any man alive, but the world didn't want to listen. His vision burned bright as a lighthouse, but we were blind to it, and lost as a fleet in a milk-white fog. Herman's tale began in January 1841, when he shipped out from New Bedford on the whaler Acushnet. He sailed on her halfway round the world, past Cape Horn to the South Pacific feeding grounds. And there, for the first time, he encountered whales, vast herds of them, uncountable multitudes, their spouts a forest of misty white jets. And there, too, for the first time, he flung his iron deep. And oh, he had his hands full. The Acushnet schooled young Herman. He called it his Yale and Harvard. But after 18 months, as the craft lay anchored off a tropical isle, he jumped ship and swam to shore. And there, he found another set of teachers. Herman hove to on that island for weeks. He explored the jungle and ran from cannibals, but mostly he relaxed and studied the local wildlife. When he came home, he set to spinning yarns about his adventures, scribbling 2 bestsellers that made him famous. Then, in 1850, he set to scratching out his masterpiece. He put into it all he knew about the sea, about whales and ships, of God and sin and the heavens and man. At the start, his thoughts were entangled, but once he unsnarled that mighty first line, the words flowed in a torrent. He called it Moby-Dick, and then more simply, the whale. He set Moby-Dick loose on the world in 1851. It was his greatest achievement, but like a great whale itself, coursing through the black depths, far below the waves, it was unseen, unheard, unnoticed. The critics, those scurvy dogs, they couldn't make sense of it, so they swabbed his name with bilge water. And the public? Some thought the book too thick, some thought the words too big. They wanted pictures, a happy ending, and in a book about a whale, they wanted a lot less whaling. Sails slowed, then stopped. The book sank like a stove-in ship, and then it lay in heaps, worthless paper, or so the world thought. But a few saw its true light. Harriet Beecher Stowe was one. At the time, she was coasting like a frigate in a following sea, surfing on the high tide of success. While Moby-Dick was foundering, her Uncle Tom's Cabin sold 1 million copies. Ah, Harriet. She had a wild streak in her. And aye, the rumors are true. Their paths crossed, although few know the whole true tale.
Look! There's Herman Melville!
You mean the guy who wrote that book that nobody can read?
Poor man! It's so terrible! No, he is trying! Poor Herman! Let's stop! Maybe I'll give him a copy of my book!
Here was the one who wrote the book that helped free the slaves, and when she looked up with a twinkle in her eye, it filled the sails of the old salt spirit. But it was only for a moment, and when that feisty gal sailed on, Herman's bad times returned. His career was becalmed, his books adrift in the doldrums of remainder racks. His publisher cut him loose, like an old hulk, bristling with barnacles. To feed his family, he signed on as United States Custom Inspector for $4 a day. And he never went back to sea. His life grew ever darker. There were fights with his mate, the death of his son. He spun in a whirlpool of depression. In 1891, when his soul cast off for the stars, he had all but passed from the minds of men. But finally, decades later, the human race caught up with Herman. In 1921, a professor raised Moby-Dick. He sang out, the world gave chase, and ever since publishers have been boiling the white whale's blubber and hauling in the cash. There have been more Moby-Dick editions than scales on a codfish. Moby-Dick has been the salesman for everything from shish kebab to cat food, and a movie star 6 times over. Now the great white whale is everywhere. Herman's prose has been etched in stone. And at long last, wherever he may be, Herman Melville must be a happy man. The human race is finally reading and listening to him. And if we can learn to do that, maybe there's hope for us yet.